only have like 53 people. Supposedly we have 70 plus. So make sure that you make people join. Okay. So basically in these sessions, I think that when we talk about planning, right, like you normally will just imagine that, okay, you will be in a space where you're going to be like crazily typing as being super productive, or you're going to be in a space where you're like, oh my God, you will prepare, you've done all your data analysis, and then when you are there, you're like, oh my God, like all these things, what is happening? I don't understand. I'm lost. There are so many decisions. I'm not sure. Or you will be like, things like I do not know, like maybe your marketing and you're fighting about like you don't understand, for marketing is different, or you probably like this one in synergy, you're like, oh my God, you get me, like this is exactly how we're gonna synergize, how we can link to one another, how can we connect to each other. So the thing is that planning is really a very interesting process, because you are not just about making decisions, but you're also about trying to understand on how collectively all of you are different people can actually make a better decision. So with that, I would like to welcome you to the first part of the planning process, part 1. So basically, it's we were gonna introduce you about the whole planning framework and also the scenario planning. The reason why we were onboarded is because you're actually gonna be the one who actually come up with the output. So I think that it's important for you to understand how the output looks like. So every year we do our planning in the same way. Like if you imagine if you are a rhythm MC, it will be easier for you to know. But if you're not, it's always the same. Like you do a change, like you plan for customer flow, you plan for attractions and everything. But then this year we can't see planning as the same old routine, because the thing is that we do not know what is the future, right? And how would it actually ends up to be. And a lot of time we always jump between trying to be, okay, when you realize that there's a change, there's really big, and then you are jumping in between trying to be reactive to the change. At the same time, we forget on how can we actually be better prepared so that we can be proactive on that. And also, I think if this session, right, there are some people who attend, like for example, I'm not sure if June or Kai you're here. Most probably, you won't get a lot from this space. So just expectation for you, for people who already attend this space before, what you can do is that you can just think again or recheck on your progress or your preparation, okay? Because it's probably the same content. So today, why we want to tell you this framework is that we want to understand how can we actually educate you better so that you know when is the time you can be reactive or the unexpected change, but most of the time you can be prepared for any foreseeable change that you think that would happen. So with that, we will introduce about what is the MC planning flow and what are the scenario planning, how do you plan for scenario, and also what are the preparation that you need for you to have a better scenario creation. So the first thing will be the planning introduction. So there are 4 flow of the plan. The first thing is that before you do any planning, you need to make sure that you've done your data, you've done your analysis, so that whatever decision or idea that you come up with is already validated by research, by fact, and also like basically all the proper way for you to actually validate your assumption. And then after that, once you have the data and also the understanding of your customer, your market, and your partner, the next thing you need to do is to come up with a scenario. So what does scenario mean? Scenario is that I will educate you more, but the brief picture is that you will form 4 kind of possible scenario that you'll be in. And then after that, recovery planning is mostly about how can you come up with a strategy to allow you to actually solve the problem or recover your entity in different scenario. After that, you will set the goal based on the scenario, because if you are assuming that you're gonna have a change in September, and if you assume that you have a change in January, your goal will look very different, because it will be a different kind of goal setting process, and also your volume of goal maybe actually get affected as well. So we will do goal setting after the recovery planning. And then after that, it will be implementation practices. So basically it's budget, network engagement, team planning, and individual plan. So this is a part where you just, once you have all the strategy plan done, you just put everything in one place, making sure that you have a clear accountability system and routine. So with that, how's it gonna reflect on your agenda? So for all this analysis, we already communicate before RPM for the MCP, and also you already are like most of your MCP current already help you to do it, or you call delivering the analysis together. And then also in this space, we will talk specifically about scenario planning. And then tomorrow we will talk about recovery planning. And then day 3, we will talk about goal setting, okay? And then for the implementation practices, we will not onboard you, because it's your MCP responsibility to actually figure out like how the team accountability looks like. So the reason why we are having planning session in OP Summit is because we want to let you understand on how would the planning output would look like, so that you know how can you prepare yourself for the MC planning process. Because having a good planning process, good output is coming from the reflection of a good preparation. So with that, the first thing that I need you to do is to go to this link, ais.ec/requireplan tool, and then I want you to actually put duplicate a copy of it. So what you can do is that I will give you the link in the chart. Okay, I don't know why it doesn't appear. Any Phileas or someone can help me to put the link in the chat. And after that, what you can do is that you can go to the recovery plan tool. Yes. Oh, thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. And then you can actually like click and then make a copy. Okay, so don't edit on this one. You probably won't be able to have the editing, right? So just make a copy and save it on your own drive. So this will be the tool that we will be using during this whole process. Is it clear? So I will give you some time. Once you're done, right, what you can do is that you can just put in the chat room and say done like that. Then I will know that, okay, you're done. Nice, thank you, Clara. Thank you, Arfan. Keep it going, people. Just type done, it's simple. This is the easiest part of the planning process, which is duplicate and make a spreadsheet out of it. It's a basic of, or if you do not know, like, I mean, just practice a bit, huh? Okay. Nice. So I can see that most of you are done. So I will go ahead. Okay. For people who are late and you're lost, just watch the recording on the front part. Okay. Please make sure that you're on time next time, because we really don't have time. Like I cannot wait for all of you. So with that, once you have the spreadsheet, and then the next thing we're gonna do is that, okay, I'm gonna set an expectation. A lot of time in these kind of planning sessions, you may feel like, oh my God, I need more time to figure out the answer and all these things. I understand, because you probably haven't do the preparation and it's a very new process. So one thing is that make sure that this is just an exercise. You don't need to have all the answer, and this exercise, it just allow you to understand the preparation that you need. So eventually in the process, if you don't have the answer, it's fine, but really just do your best to brainstorm it, so you can go through the process a bit, and then later on you will know that, okay, what is the thing that you can actually improve in the actual planning process. Because the thing is that we already onboard your MCP, so if you actually know, it can help your MCP as well, because you kind of know what is the output that is expected. So with that, before I officially explain about like what is this whole scenario thing, I think one thing that I really want to tell you is that there's a lot of uncertainty because of coronavirus. There's a lot of things that we are not sure of. And the question that I think all of you, or me, even myself, that has been asking is that what would be the possible reality that we will live in? Like, how would the future actually looks like? And the another question would be like, seems like there are a lot of different kind of future. How can we actually consolidate all these differences into like a one whole scenario that you can actually foresee the picture? So it's very easy for you to say, oh, there's recession. It's very easy for you to say that, oh, customer demand will be low, but you do not know how it looks like in detail. So with this, I created a process that allow you to understand it better, but it's not a perfect process. So if you think that there's anything you think can be improved, you can take this input and then you can tell your MCP, and then your MCP can work on it to make it better, okay? So let's start, okay? So first thing is that we talk about scenario. So I mentioned a few times. Scenario is basically about identifying a specific set of uncertainty, so that basically you're building different reality that you will be, that might be happening in the future. In my process, you should have 4 scenarios as an output, or 5. But my suggestion is that you should not have more than 5 scenarios, because it will be too much. The optimal is having 4, but if 4 scenarios is too much, it will be 3. So I think that's the expectation for you to understand on. So, and this is how your final output will look like. In the end, you should have a 4 scenario like A, B, C, D, where, oh, this should be D. Sorry, I don't know why this A. So there are A, B, C, D, where you can see that there are like this whole matrix where it will shows you like what is high and what is low and so on. So that's an example, okay? And each scenario should have the following information. You should have a scenario title, and then what is the description of the scenario? How does this scenario impact your organization and your functions? And lastly, what are the indicators that actually allow you to understand on which scenario you are heading towards on, or where you are right now? And this early indicator can tell you that, hey, for example, right, the vaccine is gonna only develop by the end of 2021. Then you will kind of know, maybe until now, travel people feel safe to travel probably will take longer than expected, things like that. Okay, so with that, the whole coming up with the scenario, it involved a lot of steps. So so I will give you the bigger picture. Okay, so in order to come up with a scenario, first you need to make sure that you need to understand on what are the decisions that you want to make. Why do you want to build the scenario? What does the scenario will tell you about? So first is understand on what are the scenario you want to make, and then after that you ask yourself is that what factor will affect the decision you want to make. Based on the decision you want to make, what would be the factor that will actually influence the decision? From there, you prioritize on two key factors that is actually most certain and highest impact. Why is most certain is because you really do not know how to project them, which means that they actually, and also they have highest impact. So that's why you need to foresee a scenario, right? Because you are trying to project things that you may overlook in the normal daily basis. And then after that, you will come up with a matrix, which is something like a like 2x2 box. And then after that, you'll come up with a scenario, implication, early indicator, and then what is the prioritized scenario. So don't worry, this is just an overview. I will go in depth for that. So the first one is focal issues. So if any one of you along the way you have questions or you're not sure, feel free to type in the chat. I will actually check on it so that I can actually know if you have anything that you are confused, okay? Or if you want me to speak slower, please let me know as well. So for one thing is that for focal issues is that the whole process of starting to identify on the scenario is to understand on what are the questions you want to answer or what are the decisions that you want to make. So this is important. So I think that for me, it will be, this is the kind of question that MCP need to define when they come up with the MC planning agenda or the process. Of course, as MCVP, you can give your MCP some suggestion on what are the discussions or decisions that you need to make in the MC planning. However, in this, so the guiding question would be what decision you need to make from MC planning. However, for me, when we come up with the process, my suggestion would be you can just use this question. The question will be, how would your entity recover by the term of 2021? Because the thing is that when you come up with the MC planning, your idea should be able to make sure that your entity can actually recover, or your entity, like if don't have enough money, can actually have enough money. So basically, in order for your entity to recover, to be in the stage that's better before the coronavirus, then you need to understand on what are the scenarios they will be in and how does this scenario affect my recovery. So my suggestion would be just stick to this focal issue, which is how would the entity recover by the term of 2021. After that, you have a focal issue. The next thing you need to come up with is what are the factors. So which factor will actually influence the scenario or the decision you need to make? So in this case, it will be, if your question is that, hey, my question is that by when my entity will recover, by how my entity will recover by term 2021, then my internal factor will be, it will depend on membership experience, because if my member lost interest, they leave, then it will actually affect, then my entity won't be able to have pipeline and we won't continue. Or financial sustainability, number of financial reserve, how much money I have would also affect how fast my entity can recover. If I only have 2 months, which means that I need to focusing a lot on BD to get money rather than doing something longer term, because I could have closed in 2 months later. Or external factor, which is something like economic development. It could be recessions. So keep your factors neutral, because what happens is that later on in the coming process, when you choose the factor, we will see if the factor is going good or the factor is going bad. So we will foresee that what if there's a good economic development? Maybe the recession is not going to be as bad as we see. Then in that scenario, what are the opportunities that you get? What would it impact your entity? So when you look into factor, just keep it neutral. Keep it not too specific, keep it broad so that you can understand on what are the elements inside this factor that can actually guide you in the process later. So right now, I know that it could be really confusing without trying. So I will actually give you a 5-minute time. So what you need to do is that based on the guiding question here, which is what are the factors will influence the speed and the strategy entity need to recover, think from there. And also what would be the internal factor and what would be the external factor. Basically, internal and external factor is a guideline for you to think. So you can see, okay, internally, what is the thing that will influence the speed and what strategy, and externally, what will be influence the speed and the strategy. So is it clear? So if that's clear, I will give you 5-minute working time to work on it. So you basically, once you duplicate, right, you can go to this, give me a second. So once you duplicate, you can go to this tab called scenario 1 to 3, and then you can fill in here. So you can fill in this part. Is it clear? Okay, so you finish this part, and then after I will give you 5 minutes on that. If you are lost, you're like, hey, I do not know, I don't remember, you can go to this. There's an example here where you can refer. And like I say, keep your factors neutral. Just keep it as this will be an element it will affect. Don't think about if my bad membership experience will affect, but good membership experience would also affect. So just think on what are the factors that's neutrally it will affect, even it's good or bad. So I will give you 5 minute time, and if you have question, you can write in the chat. I will reply you. Cool. You have 3 minutes left. Me, you were asking about like between question 1 and question 3, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a guiding question. If you have the same answer, it's fine. So it's okay okay. It's just a different kind of guiding question to guide your thought process. So it's okay if you have the same answer. Is it clear? Okay. So I think we are almost have to like last 20 seconds. So with that, I just want to know, any one of you want to share what is the thing that you have, like you put as a factors. We can have one person to share. Anyone? Oh, okay. So are you clear with what happening, or like? Okay. Oh, nice. There's some. Oh, and Andre, like you copy and paste. So finance, member, sustainability, product economy. Okay, so it's kind of like similar. Okay, cool. So I think with that, if you have questions along the way, you want to ask me, feel free to ask me more so that I know, okay, where you are and how I can guide you better. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is supposed to be present. Okay, give me a second for. Okay, I do not know what happened. So basically, after you define on the key factor, the next thing you're gonna look into is basically you need to look what are the factor that is actually the two factors that you need to prioritize. So when you finish the activity, oh, we also have means sharing as well, membership, finance per entity vision and mission standard operating procedure, external. Okay, so it's quite similar. So it's so thank you so much for posting it. So the next thing we're gonna do is that we're gonna discuss about what is a critical uncertainty. So for you, maybe when you talk about critical uncertainty, you may see it as something that is like very easily confusing. But then basically to make it simpler, right? It's critical uncertainty, which means that there are two factors out of all the key factors that you do really stand out among all. And why they stand out is because they are the uncertainty one and also with highest impact. So they are the high uncertainty and high impact. Why this impact so much is because when you are planning a scenario, you are not planning for scenario for something that you have control over and also you can already foresee. You are planning a scenario where it prepare you for the best and it prepare you for the worst. Most likely the extreme spectrum, that something that you really do not foresee this to happen. But this process will allow you to see that kind of possibility and the projection. So with that, right, the next thing you're gonna do is that after the process, you're gonna rate each factor. Which factor has the potential impact and which factor has the uncertainty. So 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest. And if you can see is that normally internal factor are the one with slightly higher certainty than the external factor, because sometimes for internal factor you has more control over. So this is just it's not like a one to apply to all kind of rules, but it's most likely will happen. So if you see that, for example, in my graph, in my example, right, if you can see in the example tab, you can see that there are 4 factors at the top right corner. So when they are at the top right corner, it means is that in my example, when I was doing this activity, I realized that there are 4 factors, which is economic development, government control on visa and travel regulation, customer interest, and partner interest and demand are the 4 factors that is actually under the category of high impact and high uncertainty. So if you face this kind of situation where you have more than 2 factors, the thing you need to do is that you either prioritize or you consolidate. And in my case, when I was doing this activity, I decided to consolidate because I think economic development, which is if it's high, which is actually good economy, low is basically recession. So I was thinking that this thing will actually affect the interest and demand, because if the economy is doing well, then my customer interest and demand will probably change. So, and then I actually I actually merge them under the economic development. But that's my approach. So these are the things that you will discuss with your team. Your MCP will lead the discussion. So that's the time that you can actually give input on it as well. So in the end, I decided with the 2 critical uncertainty, which are economic development and government movement, visa and travel regulation. So with that, I will give you another 5 minutes again, where what you can do is that you can rate the factors that you brainstorm with, and then after that you can actually see which one has a highest potential and uncertainty, and then you finalize with 2 factors. So is it clear? So you should rank them all, and then from there you can see on the graph on the top right corner, and then the top right corner are the one that is actually the critical uncertainty. So is that clear for all of you? And I'll give 5 minutes for working time. Is everybody good to go? Okay. Yes. So let's have 5 minutes to do it. And I know that I already give you an example, but don't let this example to really stuck you on something. Just feel free to explore different things because there's no right or wrong. Just treat it as activities. Okay. Cool. So I will set 5 minutes now.
When I feel cold, I'll keep you close. And if I could hold you and take you.
Yes. So for the potential impact, it means more about how much do you think that this factor can impact the organization. So what it means is that, for example, how much would a member experience would impact your organization? If a good member experience, how much it will impact? If a bad, how much it will impact? How would it look like? From one, which is very low impact, which means that if your member don't have a good experience, then it will impact like normally it's quite big because your member is basically your human to run the organization, right? So it's actually quite high. If your member have a shitty experience and they do not want to stay, then it's actually very hard for you to move things forward in the organization. So the impact is high. So basically you can assess impact from there. So you can just put that into a scenario like, for example, if I don't have a lot of money or finances, how would it affect? Can I still do my operation? Can I still run my organization for the long? So this could be something for you to think about. If the three factor has the same number of impact uncertainty, is it fine? Yes, it is. But in the end, you need to pick two. So you can either consolidate or you can you need to prioritize the two factors. There's most like there's most highest impact and uncertainty. Is it clear, Min? Okay. I cannot what is that? Too indecisive. It's fine. You can discuss with your team. Define. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. You can share what are the three factors, and then I can see, and then I can give you an example. You can put down the three factors you're working on. You have 2 minutes left.
To sway this life. It was Friday night, and all the lights blindly tried. And my love is your side, and I can feel it.
Okay. So we have 1 minute time. So So with that, I can answer some questions. Some of you are asking, like, when we are doing planning with the team, we have to justify the ranking that we choose with research. So when you are deciding this, yes. So that's why you need to do this practice right now, is because in case you come up with certain factors, you actually need to read a bit of information about that, because rather than trying with a random factors that nobody actually know, it's good to actually identify on what are the aware of what are the factors, and then you can actually read some understanding the data or resources. That's why you need to do analysis before that. But for the ranking itself, to be honest, it depends on how your team want to do it. Either you want to use the data as a way to justify the ranking, or you can, after everybody go through the data, and then everybody will rank it, so you can go through it through discussion. So for example, when you see these three factors, maybe for partner and customer interest and demand could be at a similar thing. So what you can do is that it can be like, for example, external stakeholder interest or demand. So you can consolidate things into that way, then it can actually helps you on that. But then I think that, like, for the interest and demand, sometimes you also need to understand that if you did choose this as a factor, it would be good for you to have some data later on, which you know that when partner have low interest, how would they behave? When partner has high demand, how would they behave? So later it can help you with the description. And then for example, membership and development, immigration policy and visa issue. So for membership and development, right, for me is that this is a little bit tricky, because you actually will be able to, the certainty is actually middle. I don't think it's extremely uncertain. So but if your team think that it's really uncertain, then I think it's up to your entity context, but make sure that you really pick something that's uncertain, so that it can really prepare you for the worst case scenario. Okay, growing cases of COVID in the country and business cost cutting. Yeah, I think it would be very interesting, because Pakistan is one of the AP entity that actually has the highest growing number right now in coronavirus. So I think that could be a really good amount to actually let you project things. I think it's pretty interesting. And then business cost cutting, I think that for you, you can think of something more like a bigger concept. In terms, if you see that, okay, this factor could affect a lot, then I think it can go with it. But you can also see something in the bigger perspective, because business cost cutting sometimes doesn't allow you to see more like a customer side. So just make sure that when you pick a factor, it can be more holistic for you. Okay, yes, and then I saw the rest, the coronavirus and government control and financial sustainability. So keep only two, because the thing is that when you form scenario like government control and cases, right, you will know how's your financial sustainability. If your control is strict and then your cases is growing like crazy, then you know that you will have little money to survive if you just rely on exchange. So sometimes it can tell you a lot of information. Okay, yeah, I think that's all with that. If you need to, like, for example, more feedback or suggestion, you can always find your regional manager. They actually already know that. So thank you so much for sharing. I really enjoy like having conversation with you. Some of you may have questions like, for example, must my critical uncertainty to be external factor, or must it be internal factor? It doesn't matter. The thing that you decide is basically how this factor has the impact and the uncertainty. That's how you define, not whether it's internal or external or not. Okay. So that's the final thing to recap this part. So once you know these two factors, it's time for you to build a scenario. So how a scenario looks like is basically a metric, just like any graph. Like, I know that as Asian, we are taught, or we are assumed to be good in math, right? So this is a time where we can actually really use our strength. So you may remember the high school trauma that you have on the y-axis and x-axis. You're gonna use the same concept, but this time it's easier because you won't have any math formula. But you only need to do research before that. So in this case, how it's gonna look like is that you will put, like, for example, right, just now, wait, what's your name again? Right? Mean the cutest. Mean the cutest say that, okay, for example, maybe customer and partner demand and interest is one critical uncertainty, and then another one, which is the government visa and regulation control. Okay, so with that, then you have two part. So for example, if the government control is high, like they don't let you come up easily, and then your customer demand is low, you have a scenario where there is really bad. So this is how the next step, where you put the x-axis and the y-axis with the two factor that you decide on. It's not an individual activity. You're gonna do it together with the team. So I'm just going through with you so that you know how it looks like. So when you later on, once you put that into x-axis and y-axis, you don't need to do any math formula. Good news for those who hate math. But what you're gonna do is that you're gonna create a story. So congrats for anyone who is really like to create some story, you know. So what you're gonna do is that first thing you're gonna do is that you need to create a headline, like a very catchy headline that allow you, when I read this headline, I know that what does this scenario is about. Okay. So with that, I will So for example, right, so if I'm at a example, which is if I'm a scenario where I have a high economic development, which means that the recession, we don't have recession, or the recession is not as bad as we see. Actually, there are more industry actually starting to grow. And then also there, but then still the government is controlling a lot of your visa or like going to another country or traveling, then we will be in scenario B. So my dramatic headline would be baby step recovery, which means that the economy is not that bad, but at the same time we are still slowly recover for all this control on the movement because of coronavirus. So from that, you think on what is the headlines, and after that you brainstorm on the description. So how you can do it with the team is that you can actually ask everybody to write in the sticky notes and everything, and then everybody can brainstorm it together. So basically, imagine that you're in this situation. Basically, you would think that most companies will still encourage work from home because government still has a lot of control, right? So they will ban unnecessary travel for especially those highly affected areas. So maybe when you foresee that in longer time is that not all the country will actually have coronavirus. Maybe there are only certain red lights, but the rest is actually safer. And then people are actually more positive to travel in long term because the economy is not doing as bad, but then they will only feel safer if the cases is lower a bit more or something like that, or in a particular country. So it depends on your entity context, okay? And then also partner and government, maybe because the economy is good, that's why they have money that they want to invest in CSR project. Because of this whole coronavirus, they realize that, oh my God, public health and well-being is really important and all this thing. And then also along the way, you realize that, oh, there's also some growth in technology advancement company, like for example, Slack. Maybe you have your own, I don't know, Malaysian company, Grab or something that is still doing really well. And then this company actually have demand to hire more people, then it could be an opportunity for your GT. And then lastly is like your university timeline. So you can think from this aspect when you come up with the scenario, okay, and the description. So with that, I will actually ask, like I will give you 10 minutes time for you to brainstorm on the title and the description based on the core identity. So you can just be wild and free to experience whatever thing you come up with. And then after that, once you're done, you can share your spreadsheet link, and then I can read it directly in the spreadsheet that you're working on. Okay. Or if you want to type in the chat, you can do that as well. So is it clear? Okay. I think should be. Okay, so let's go ahead. So I will give you 10 minutes and then you'll create a scenario. So in this case, right, so I will show you, you should be working on this step 4, which is this part. So you put the certainty here, and then after that here, and then you start to put the title and then things. Okay, someone likes A for 2 times. I guess maybe it's my Asianness. I need A for a lot of time. So I put A for 2 times. So anyway, you can use in this part of the spreadsheet. Okay, so 10 minutes will start now. So if you already know how to do it, it's fine. I'm gonna re-explain the process again in case some of you are lost. So what happened is that I will show you by the example that I have. So what you need to do is that, remember just now you decide on two factors. So you put the two factor here. Once you put it here, you look at the factor. If I have a high economic development, but then with a low government control, how would the scenario will look like? If I have a high economic development with a high government control, how would the scenario will look like, and what would be a description? So this is the part where you can brainstorm on the headlines and also the description on that. So if you need more clarification, let me know. But it should be depends on the factor you come up with. So this is just an example. It doesn't mean that you need to use it. But if you are really confused and you do not know how to think about it, then what you can do is that you can read the example that's given.
You call me on the telephone, you feel so far away. You tell me to come over, there's some games you wanna play. I'm walking to your house, nobody's home, just me and me alone. We're just playing hide and seek, it's getting hard to breathe under the sheets with you. I don't wanna play no games, I'm tired of always chasing after you. I don't give a fuck about you anyways. Whoever said I give a shit about you? You never share your toys or communicate. I guess I'm just a play date to you.
I think it depends on how you're going to define which are the most likely scenario, because there will be a step later on for you to define, because you should define it based on the early indicator so that you know that which likely you're going for which scenario. So Vivek, I will explain to you later. But then if you're done with one scenario, like at least you finish with one scenario, it's okay, because it's not possible for you to finish first scenario in 10 minutes, even though you're Superman or whatever. Like that's not possible, okay? So anyone of you want to share, like you can share your link here, like you can make give me view so that I can actually give you feedback. Like I can accept one person. It will be a good learning space. Oh, thanks, Shiny. Shining 7. Nice. Can you give me can you make Yes, thank you. As we don't have a lot of time, so you can stop with the activity now. So we can go through with one of the example that we have, okay? So you all can check here. So thank you, Shining, to share with us. Really appreciate that, Shining. No, not Shining, that's your team name, Heidi. Okay, so with that, so let's go with the example, okay? So you can see that, okay, very dramatic, right? So you use membership, and then you say, and then also economic situation. So if there's a low economic situation, but the member is high means like high retention or high turnover. So for this one, I would suggest that you can give more description for the membership if you're referring to experience, or you put it here, membership experience. Okay, so basically you're at a bad economic situation, but you have a good experience, which I do not know why you say dark side of the fact, because it sounds like, okay, at least your member is having a good time. So yeah, so okay, economics linear, no development in the next year, nearly depression, people lost job, they try to cut down, university supposedly to improve is that context wise, but for example, if you mention about university support, then and also partnership for future support. You can mention about what kind of support or what are the partnership that your university would be interested in. Maybe because economy is bad, university is focusing more on practical experiences for membership development. That's why partnership with either suddenly makes sense, because they see either as a way to train their people to be better with job or employment. Then it could be one of the example. And then is linear and no development in next 1 year? Yes, there could be good example, but it would be nice also for you to also understand is that, okay, what part of the economy is it generally all, and how does this economy will affect your membership? If your member, and also if your member are staying, what do you think that could be the contributor of why your member is staying? Okay, so I think that this can be some idea for you to think on it. So this is one of the example. So the next thing is that I will go with the next part of the process. If you have a question anyway, I will later on I will open a question space for all. So the next thing is that you're going to talk about implication. So once you know about the scenario, you need to talk about how does this situation impact your entity. So remember that in the beginning, you come up with the internal and external factors, right? So in this space, what you do is that you refer back to the internal external, and then you actually look into if I'm actually at the stage where my member is, like for example, in my case, is that your government has a lot of has high control, economy is doing actually better than expected. If this sort of situation happen, how would it impact my membership? How would it impact my financial situation? By when I can start doing operation? So these are the questions that you need to answer. How would it impact my IR partner as well? So I think that for this, so what you're going to do is that I will give you another 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes because we're running out of time. So with that, you can actually think on, based on this question, you can just answer this question on how does that scenario, how would the implication looks like for your entity. So these are the 4 guiding questions that you can use to actually help you to refer to think on the implication. Okay, so is it clear? Can we have a 5 minutes time to work on it? And then once you're done, you can share the spreadsheet again, and then we can go through a bit quickly. Is it cool? And if you have any question, you can ask again in the group. Okay, thank you for replying. So yeah, so basically it's a part of this whole implication column. If you're confused on where to put, it's an implication column. So you will have 5 more minutes. I may cut the time along the way because we are running out of time, so I'm trying to manage the time. So we have 5 minutes for now.
This night is cold in the kingdom. I can feel you fade away. From the kitchen to the bathroom sinking. Your steps keep me awake. Don't cut me down, throw me out, leave me here to waste. I once was a man with dignity and grace. Now I'm slipping through the cracks of your cold embrace. So please, please, could you find a way to let me down slowly? A little sympathy, I hope you can show me. If you wanna go, then I'll be so lonely. If you leaving, baby, let me down slowly. Let me down, down, let me down, down, let me down, let me down, down, let me down, down, let me down. If you wanna go, then I'll be so lonely. If you leaving, baby, let me down slowly. Cold skin, drag my feet on the tile as I'm walking down the corridor. And I know we haven't talked in a while, so I'm looking for an open door. Don't cut me down, throw me out, leave me here to waste. I once was a man with dignity and grace. Now I'm slipping through the cracks of your cold embrace. So please, please, could you find a way to let me down slowly? A little sympathy, I hope you can show me. If you wanna go, then I'll be so lonely. If you leaving, baby, let me down slowly. Let me down, down, let me down, down, let me down, let me down, down, let me down, down, let me down. If you wanna go, then I'll be so lonely. If you leaving, baby, let me down slowly. And I can't stop myself from falling.
Nice. So any one of you want to share your spreadsheet? I can go through the thing that you typed so far. You can see another versions of the output. Oh, yes, we have someone from Pakistan. Okay, nice. So let's see. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate this. So with this, okay. So for example, okay, your growing cases, right? So imagine like basically you can just put cases of COVID-19, like increment of growth, because if you put growing, it's already shown like it's gonna be high growing. Oh, actually, it's fine. That's a good name anyway. Just man feedback. So in this case, okay, so you come up with a description, and I think that for example, when you so I will give you a bit about description. So you put cases are expected to grow over 1 million, right? This could be the early indicator, which means that when you start to read the new that projected Karachi or maybe somewhere in Pakistan or Pakistan as a whole, you will have 1 million cases projection by which month, which means that you're heading to scenario B. So this is actually a good indicator for your early indicator, okay? But we'll talk about it after this part. So you are talking about people are cutting costs. There will be lockdown, last for 2 months. It will reopen for next year. Yes. So as like, okay, so this is a good one where you understand that you cannot generate a change. So you need to have digital spaces next year. Yes. So this is also a good expectation as well. I will be difficult. Yes. I think this is a pretty good example. I think that what you can really think on is also how would this whole university reopen next year will affect your membership experience. Because since you won't be able to have physical engagement with them. Okay, sorry. So since you won't have a physical engagement with your membership, then how would it actually looks like? I think that's something that for you to actually look into it. And also by when you can expect, because you mentioned about 2 months, right? So by when maybe you think that you can only start to do operation again, maybe in September for attraction. Then maybe you can only have January for realization. Then it could be one of the implication. So I think this is a pretty good example. So if you look back on my example, it will be like, yeah, like basically you can mention about how much exchange operation when you can start and how much month of reserve. This is a very important part is because you need to foresee in different scenario how much month of reserve you will have or how much money you need to survive so that you all later on when your BD set a goal or when you product set a goal or when you generally come up with a strategy, you need to know that if I'm at scenario B, without any new revenue stream, I'm fucked in 3 months. So you need to come up with a recovery plan that serves you right, okay? So I think that would be the general feedback that I have. So just follow the gunning question. It can actually allows you to have like better, more holistic kind of reflection on the implication. With that, we'll go to the next part, which is early indicator. So early indicator is for me is pretty a fun thing because basically early indicator is like a sign, you know, like, okay, when you look at that thing, indicator showing a certain sign, then that's how you actually project which scenario we are heading to. When are we going to from scenario A to scenario D based on what information? So early indicator could be a KPI that you can get the information either from the behavior of the customer or media sources or research like publications or journal like from scientific research or a statement of an important politician. So if the politician is saying something like, oh, we will not open our country border until the end of term 2020, December 2020. When you hear that, then you already know that maybe in the beginning, you were having a scenario which is like country will have low restriction, but high travel restriction, things like that. So this is how it's heading to. So for example, right, a few very classic early indicator for corona cases like coronavirus is normally vaccination timeline or the possibility of having a vaccine. So these two things will really help you to define more on how the future will operate. If a scientific article telling you that, hey, probably we won't be able to have vaccine until the end of year 2021, or we will probably get used to post-coronavirus, even though there's no vaccine, but all this lifestyle like quarantine or no mass gathering will be saying until now, then you know that in the future, doing a physical event like a global village is not feasible anymore as a strategy. So this is something that for you to think about. or like how's your healthcare system of your country or territory. If your country territory healthcare system is really getting worse and then you are running out of resources to support, then you know that things is not gonna get easy. Then you need to figure out another way. Or the projection of the economy. So your early indicator could be the reflection based on the factors that you come out with. So you might have questions which is like, okay, Shamil, but what if along the way when I answer implication, I actually realize more thing about description, or I realize that my description, implication, and early indicator can be. It is fine, it's repetitive. It is fine that when you're doing early indicator, it gives you more idea for implication and description. You can just go back and just edit it. It's not supposed to be like a, once you have description, you cannot go back for description. You must go to the implication. It's not like that. So it's a very fluid process. So along the way, you realize that, hey, there's this thing that we overlook, and then, oh, there's this thing that we overlook. Then along the way, you add it so that it makes your scenario very concrete. So is it clear for all of you? Oh, can you hear me now? My voice is breaking. Okay. So if you're confused with which part you didn't get it, you can ask me again. Anyone of you have any questions? Last few lines. Yeah, so what I'm saying is that, to recap again, is that it is okay that along the way when you come up with description, implication, and early indicator, you realize that there is something missing in the description or there's something missing in the implication. You can just go back and edit it. It doesn't mean to be like perfect thing. So I think that that's all with that. Because I don't have a lot of time for activity, I would like to go ahead with more explanation so that it can help you to understand better more. So these are the guiding questions that it can guide you when you think about like the early indicator, which is what information you need to help you to understand which scenario you'll be in. How can you get this information, and how does this information reflect as an indicator to help you to understand the scenario? And then once you understand that, the next thing you will do is to prioritize the scenario. So basically how you will prioritize is basically based on the early indicator. So early indicator is the information source that allow you to project which scenario you will be in. So let's take just now the Pakistan example, right? Like if you have 1 million cases, then you will be in scenario D because it's extremely serious. Like probably your whole country will be in the lockdown, cases like that. So these are the kind of indicator that it can guide you to know that I'm in scenario A or scenario B, or maybe right now you have 50,000 cases, but then and then you start to see slowdown, and then people start to flatten the curve. Then you know that you're not gonna go to the scenario where you have 1 million cases. You'll be in the, so that's example for you to know how to prioritize your scenario. And then in the end, you will also understand that maybe there will be a sequence as well. Maybe now I'm in scenario D, but then when based on the news that I see, maybe I will be in scenario B in the coming months, or A. So it depends on your discussion. So there's no perfect answer, but it's mostly for you to project on which scenario you will be in so that you know what strategy you need to implement and where can you allocate your resources. So based on that, I want to give you 5 minutes. So I just want you to like reflect on how was the whole activity going on for you. And based on the output that you see just now, is there anything that come to your mind that you are like, okay, I actually need to prepare this information so that I can make a decision better? Because as you can see in the process, it's very easy for you to actually be but imagine that in a space everybody is unsure about the information they give, then in the end you will procrastinate the decision making, or you feel like once you plan, the output is not good enough for you. So we are not striving for the perfect output, but what are the preparation that you need that it will make you feel more confident with the input that you are giving there? And also, what are your role in MC planning process? Since you're MC repeat product, what are the information or the implication that you can actually provide to the team that let your team understand things, because you understand your function the best? So these are the 3 questions. So I will give you 3 minutes time to reflect, and then I would like to hear some sharing. You can put it on the chat or you can verbally share so that I can get to know how was this process going on for you. Oh, already start understanding. Cool. So I will still give you 3 minutes time for you to reply, okay? And then once you're done, you can just type in the chat. All right, people. So let's see. Okay, yes, we have some sharing. That's nice. So for me, it makes you to understand better. Second time looking, wow, that's good. So basically, I will share you the link where there's a more detailed guideline. So if you want to know more, you want to study by yourself, you can study that. It's more detailed guideline. Cool. Individual research, giving perspective to your team, give clarity on how to plan, awareness about country updates, and identify multiple scenario. Okay, give me a perspective from your expertise. Yes, in-depth research, give more perspective, give bigger picture of the process. Nice, systematic and coming out for myself. Good way to start things. The first element, not to forget anything, gathering sources, gathering data, research, ideally, okay, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Nice, context better, having confidence to book it. Nice. Everyone, you can read through each other, sharing, that's really good. Cool. So thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate for those who type it down. It really shows that you're engaged because I can't see you. So I don't know if you actually understand or not. The gravity of the thing. Okay, cool. So I think with that, hopefully you can take this session as a first starting point for you to actually want to know more about the person and think about how can you contribute your strength to the team because you are the one who understand the product the best. And with that, I think that just for you to know is that before the planning start, in order for you to have a better output, a lot of you mentioned about research or preparation, make sure that you go through the qualitative analysis output. So basically later on, if you want to understand on like, for example, if the economy is not going well, what would be the thing that your partner will prioritize? What would be the thing that your customer will prioritize? Your qualitative analysis output should give you some sense of direction on that. Because it's very hard for you to just imagine that, oh, I think my customer or my partner will want to deprioritize this or deprioritize that without a proper validation, then you may come up with a lot of answer or strategy that may not meet the needs of the partner. However, this shouldn't stop information then only to come planning. But I think that it's mostly so that along the way, once you're more experienced with your role, once you can foresee things better, you can adjust your scenario. So just for you to know that this is not, you're gonna do monthly review again so that you can always be ahead of the curve to solve the uncertainty that you're gonna face. And then also, and then I will share all the PPTs. Yeah, can you hear me now? Is everyone can hear me? For those who want the slide, I will give it. Okay. Oh, okay. I think it's the internet issues then. Can you hear me better now? Is it better now? Yes? All right. Thank you so much for letting me know when my voice is breaking. Okay, so I think that what I'm saying is that just make sure that you have a good preparation to allow you to understand the context before you go for planning. And then also diagnosis tool. So basically you can click here to assess the tool. This is a really cool tool that is not perfect, but it's like a tool where you can go for your NDT. So you can go for the link later on. And then you can actually check based on your NDT and also based on different scenario, how would the projection would look like? So for example, Malaysia, right? Okay, Malaysia is really showing here. And then in scenario one, cooperation and partnership. Then you can see, okay, what would be the suggestion for the priority? How would your state look like? Okay, so this is something that for you to access, and then you can change the scenario. You can go here, and then you can see, okay, in June, how would it look like? For example, how would your people actually look like? Things like that. So you can actually check on this information. So in order to guide you to how to check on it, you can go to the tutorial here to watch how to use the tool. Okay, so I'm not going to go in detail on that, but it's basically a resources for you to refer. So what would be the frequently asked question? I imagine that maybe along the process you will see, you'll ask yourself, because right now you will come up with two parts, right? One is that you will come up with the MC scenario, but then you will ask, should I have a scenario for my own functions? My answer is that ideally no, because you should be able to align your scenario with the MC team scenario. Your team strategy should be something cohesively aligned to the MC one. Okay. However, you can take the scenario that the MC come up with. From there, you can actually add more description, implication, and early indicator that related more for your function. So if you're MC within marketing, you can give more description about marketing, implication on marketing. So for example, if there is then what would be the approach for your marketing? What would the scenario looks like? So this is something that for you to consider. But if you have like a really unique case where that factor is going to affect a lot, then what you can do is that you can draft your own scenario, but it shouldn't be too different from your MC team. It shouldn't be like a totally different new thing. Then, or else your plan will not be aligned to your MC team. Then there will be no big picture for your whole plan. Okay. And the question is that should I have 4 scenario? If 4 scenario are too hard for you or your team to come up with, at least have 3. But please not having more than 5 because you will lose focus. And then also, the whole recap will be before you start this planning, make sure that you go to the qualitative analysis output and the diagnosis tool so that you get yourself ready and do extra preparation or analysis if you want. Read more article to make sure that you are educated, or make sure that your team are actually doing this so that you can have the best understanding for your entity before you start planning. And the output will be coming out with 3 to 5 scenario. Okay. So that's all for today for the scenario planning. We will continue the second part of the scenario planning on day 2. But one question, and then we leave it in the slide so you can check that. Anyone has any questions? Okay. Probably you need more time to think. So if you think that, okay, show me this space, I want to talk more about it, you think that there's a need for consultancy space, you can personally message me, and then maybe in one of the lunchtime, I can do a consultancy space for you to get to know more or ask more questions or get feedback. Okay. So that's all for this space. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. And also for a few that's been really responsive in typing and responding. I really appreciate it. So that's all for that. And the next one, Phidias, who's the next Bessie?
So hi everyone. Thank you
Thanks.
so much, Xiaomei, for your session. So the next, so you will have a break time right now. The breaks will end at 3:45. Okay, just check your calendar because everyone in different time zone, right? So that's why check your calendar. So it will be around